Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome back to another episode of Authenticity Amplified series. I have with me the lovely Crystal Pope today, and we're talking about what it means to be seen without having to perform our way through it. As two self identified introverts, we often relate on, like, okay, we got to run a business, we got to show up for ourselves, which I know a lot of us out here can relate to, but what does that actually mean, and how do we move through the awkwardness of it all? So we wanted to have a conversation with everyone today around that. So usually in the beginning, I like to give everyone like 5 minutes to transition in between. I remember the life before of like back to back meetings. So if you're ready here, like grab your snacks, grab your comforter, whatever it is that'll make you cozy for the next hour of joining us. And for folks trickling in, like I'd love to hear from you in the comments, like what made you interested in our topic today, and like what's hard for you right now around visibility and around being seen. All right. And I would also like to just note at the top of my talks that, like, usually the topics we cover here are part of a bigger shift that we make in our life, right? It's not just like, I'm going to go out and buy a new shirt, I want a new outfit kind of thing. But we're doing these deeper changes about ourselves and how we want to be seen, and to do it in a way that feels good for us and to feel authentic. So we hope this conversation sparks an idea and a place for you to start, but also a reminder to be patient and gentle with yourself, that this change does happen over time, which we'll share a bit more about today. All right. So, without further ado, Crystal, thank you for joining me today. I'm really excited to have you on this side of the conversation now. Would you be open to giving a little introduction about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Hello, hello, everyone. My name is Crystal Toogie Pope, and I am the CEO and visibility strategist of Toogie Marketing, where I help wellness entrepreneurs, holistic healers, and coaches. I help them ease into the spotlight through strategy, style, and signature video series.
Oh my goodness, so concise, and I love this. I love that about your work. I still remember the first time we met a few years ago. We were in a program together trying to challenge ourselves on how to be visible, and I
Mhm.
love that you brought this gentle lens to what feels like a harsh experience of like, "Oh, I
Mm.
gotta show up, I gotta be in front of the camera," and so forth. So excited to dive in more with you today,
That's
and
what I appreciate
yeah.
about you, of you bringing that gentle lens to your work as well.
Yeah, yeah, I'm here to find my gentle people, right? So, if you guys can relate, please reach out. I'm always looking for more of our kind. And yeah, so I guess for on my end, a little introduction from me as well. My name is Betty Chan. I am an authenticity life coach. I'm a speaker, and I'm also a workshop facilitator. And I work with folks. I still work on this language a bit. I call them code switchers, people who feel like they have to be two or three or more versions of themselves in different parts of their life, right? There's a work part of you, there's a home part of you, there's a mom part of you, there's a daughter part of you. And you feel like this craving to have them all connect and make sense and feel like a whole person, as opposed to having to shrink yourselves in different rooms that you're in your life.
Mhm.
And a huge part of the group that I work with, I think a lot of them, similar to me, identify as like quiet powerhouses, right? Like we know we're good at what we do, but we don't have this deep desire to be super loud about it. But we also recognize that we carry a message and a mission that we want more people to know. So like, how do we navigate that line in a way that feels good, a way that feels easeful and authentic as well? So I'd love to dive in more with you today. Oh, I mean, let's start with the real stuff, Crystal. Like, we both talk about visibility. We're both clearly on camera now. We
Mhm.
have some comfort level about it, but I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure there are still days where we're like, we feel the hangups, right? So I'm kind of curious if you can like recall, like in this season of life, like where is that hang up showing up for you now in visibility, and like how do you
Mm.
navigate around it?
So right now, where those hangups around visibility for me, I think it comes from trying new things, which is important. Like as a business owner, you gotta try, continue to improve your craft, continue to. I know personally, I want to evolve because I'm asking my clients, asking my audience to get out of their comfort zone. So
Mhm,
I wouldn't feel
mhm,
right about doing that if I'm not doing the same. And so, personally, something that I started doing, which is um, publicly documenting my journey. And so I've been building a new community,
Mhm.
Introvert Video Breakthrough. And with that, I've been doing documentation. I started off doing weekly documentation, and now I am documenting daily. And so that has been a way that I've been getting out of my
Mm.
I really like
Mhm.
documenting my journeys, but I tend to do it privately. I have like a
Mhm.
whole system set up, and so this is different of like approaching it publicly because there's like one, it is for me, like I want to be able to look
Mhm.
back and helping me become more consistent in making sure that I'm actually marking this journey, but also like it is still out in the world. So I wanted to also appeal to other people. And so that line
Mhm.
of making sure that it's benefiting me and that it's coming, authentically from me, but also realizing that there is an audience behind it, and like, what do I want them to get out of it as well?
Yeah, like being thoughtful, like this isn't just for me personally. It's for me and for
Mhm,
people who are watching this, and we want them to be inspired and take away. Um, I'm chuckling because I'm like, oh, my first thought was like, I also want it to look good. I want my journey to look good, right? So there's
mhm,
that desire of it also, but like the thing with documentation, I imagine, is you don't really know what's going to show up from day
mhm.
to day. How do you get comfortable about sharing that, knowing that that's part of the process?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't yet got comfortable with it. It is still
Real talk, yes.
it is still very uncomfortable, but with that, like,
Mm,
just from over the years, I've learned that that is where that growth come in, right? Of being uncomfortable. And so it does
mm,
feel very cringe. Sometimes it feels a little embarrassing, especially like I know like this week did not go how I expected it to go, because I am
mm,
attending this conference this week. And so that's taking a lot of energy. And so there are certain things that I definitely could have better prepared or done differently, and so I'm gonna be
mhm,
talking about that. And so it does feel very vulnerable, and and
yeah,
really though, I'm just gonna see like what happens, because on when I think about it from perspective, when I hear from other people and they're telling me like this is what happened, this is how things didn't go how I planned, but how I'm going to, do it next time. I don't look at them
yeah,
and think like, oh, I'm never gonna like hear from them again or listen to what they have to say again. I'm thinking like, "Oh, thank
yeah,
you for sharing that." And it makes me feel more connected with them because it's like it's honesty, because it's not all
yes,
perfect. It's not always like gonna go how you
mhm,
expect it to, but it's about how are you getting back up and how are you pivoting? And so I try to
mhm,
keep that in mind for myself of like, I'm doing this and this did not go how I
mhm,
expected, and not focus on, because I think that's what gets us. We like, right, we want to show up a certain way. We want people to view us a certain way, but also like
mhm,
I am human, and
mhm, mhm, yeah,
it's just not. And I think I want to be a space where I can share that. And I know that the people who are meant for me, they're going to resonate with that and understand that. And the people who don't, then they're probably not my people anyway.
yeah, yeah. I love that you had that moment of, like, just putting yourself in someone else's shoes, right, as the person receiving that. I'm also someone who's personally drawn to someone like, the hiccups, the because I'm like, it looks so good as a case study. It looks so good one by the time it reaches Instagram or, like, the final edited version. And I think it's easy to trick ourselves to believe that, like, that's just what comes out. Like, we wake up and we look glorious, right? Like, it's so
Mhm.
easy to believe that, that I really appreciate when people share, like, "Oh, actually, no, I had to, like, try this 4 more times this way. I had to restart from over here," and just humanize the whole process. And I think it makes the learning a lot more fun when you get to be, like, a little experimenter, really. You get to tinker
Yeah,
with things along the way. So, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
yeah. What about you? What have you been Is there any
Hmm.
tips you've been having lately about showing up?
I mean, little things like tying up my hair, putting it down every 30 seconds. As you all have already seen me done, because I'm like, I don't know how I want my hair today. But like the really, like, truly, like, in what's present for me in the moment, right? Like,
Mm,
am I stiffening up in how I'm showing up as opposed to just relaxing into the moment and really
mhm,
trying to be authentic. because I want people to feel that when they're talking to me over Zoom or when they're hearing us on this talk, that it's going to be more or less the same person they're going to come across inside the coaching room when they work with me or when they grab a coffee with me outside in person, for example. Like for me, the authenticity and the through line of it matters. And it's less about being the exact same person in every room. It's more about like, am I fully showing up as myself? Am I allowing all the parts of me to be seen when I want it to be seen and being able to choose that? So that's something
Mm,
I'm working on, just like honestly getting comfortable in front of the camera. I know people who've been following along will be like, you've done so many of these. And like I butt sweat every time I get on these. I'm just like, oh, this is uncomfortable. What do I need to do? So I'm with you in that part of like, I'm not sure it's gotten comfortable, but I think I've gotten braver and clearer in
mm,
terms of why I want to keep doing it. But the
mm.
comfort part, I don't think comes until we do it a million and 10 times. Right.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and sometimes not even then. I mean, depending on what it
Yeah.
is. I was just, I just talked to someone, they were saying, like, how they talked to the speaker, they gave an amazing keynote, and they were just like,
Mm.
how they feel afterward, and they was like, "Yeah, you saw me on that stage, but before, like, I was so nervous." And they've done
Hmm.
it so many times, right? And I know of other speakers who say similar, where it's like, yes, they're doing it, and yes, when they go up there with practice, are able to, present
Yeah.
themselves a certain way, but you're
Yeah.
not seeing the behind the scenes situation that goes into that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, I guess, do you have any like routines or practices you do before becoming visible, before being seen, something you do before getting on camera that helps ground you back into the moment?
Hmm. Um, for me, it's really about, since personally, I am pretty comfortable on on camera. A lot of
Mm.
times, even more so than like in person. There's a lot more variables in the camera.
Oh.
I have like the way that I think about it, and like I try to like tell my community, is like, to me at least, if you think, it's like you have a lot of control when you do online, of like where you are
Mhm.
when you're on camera, where you're filming. Um, there's some things, tech
Oh.
things. Oh my gosh, that can always happen, but for the most part, you
Yeah.
have quite a bit of control. And so for me, some of the things I do, we were kind of talking about this before. It's like I just make sure I'm good. I eat so that my
Oh, yes.
my tummy so my tummy isn't grumbling. And me make sure I'm hydrated. Just those kind of things, and
Mm.
especially like if it's something yummy or something, like I'm a foodie, so like that already puts me in a good mood. I might
Mm.
listen to some music, but typically before, depending on what type of way I'm showing up, I'm like, maybe I'm looking over my notes, maybe looking over things, just refamiliarizing myself,
Mm.
because that helps me just feel more prepared. And again, it just depends on the topic of like, well, if I'm teaching, if I'm just speaking from the heart. But all in all, it's like I think about like what do I need right now? You talk about being in the present, because it could
Mhm.
change, but it's like, what do I need right now? Am I kind of low on
Mm.
energy? And even if I am, it's like, okay, like that's fine to show up that way, because that's
Yeah.
how I'm feeling. And I may need to like do a little pick me up, but I also don't want to show up inauthentically of like, yeah, yeah, yeah. If that's not how I'm feeling, I focus
Mm.
more on that message. It's like this message still gonna get out.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm not as giddy as I normally am, but I'm still going to, and I'll address that too. Like, hey,
Yeah.
XYZ, sorry, I'm a little
Mm.
low energy, but I'm going to get this message out. So I think that kind of helps too. And again, adding that human element of like letting people know, like,
Yes.
this is what's happening, but I'm still showing up. And so
Mhm.
this is how I'm showing up. Just like in real life, when you go, like, this is how this is how I'm showing up today. Like, this is
Yeah.
what I have, and this is what, you're this is what you're gonna get today. But I'm still gonna give my best of what I have.
Mm, mhm. Actually, we talked about this when we reconnected earlier that you and I met online. Like, we met in an online
Mm,
program, and we actually didn't get to meet each other in person until, like, 2 years
yeah.
later, and to feel like, "Oh, actually, you feel like online." Like, it feels like the
Mhm.
same person. There's no, like, pulling of the rug feeling underneath.
Mm,
So I do credit that to, like, that's what I mean a lot of times of authenticity. Like, is there that consistency that is present for who you are and what you represent in any room that you're
mhm.
in, online or offline? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I love what you said earlier around just like being attentive to your body, right? And what it needs. Like one of the things I used to do before any sort of talk was just have a little space heater on the side. That was part of my ritual
Mm,
because for some reason, and it's probably due to nerves. Like I'm nervous, and that's very natural to be nervous. But like
mhm,
my hands would get like ice cold, uncomfortably
mm,
so, kind of like when your stomach's grumbling when you're hungry, and
mhm,
it's such a distraction, and it like takes you out of the present moment. Like it would make me stop listening to the other person, and then I would feel less prepared in responding as opposed to like, what are all the ways I can be kind to myself so that I get to enjoy this moment? I get to stay present in the moment. And part of the other thing I picked up on what you shared is just the permission, right? Permission to have those needs, address those needs, permission to show up as a human in the moment. And if your energy is a little low key, to like own it and to name it,
mm,
because it's okay. And honestly, for like every time I think about it from an audience perspective, when I'm an audience member, I'm like, oh, it's so like I actually listen to the speaker a lot more when I get to connect to the humanity
mhm,
as opposed to like they're really good and they're really like great at presenting. I mean, I might listen too. I'm not saying I won't listen to them,
mm,
but
mhm,
there's immediately this interest that peaks up when someone is able to show their humanity on stage because it does feel so much more vulnerable to do it.
mhm.
Yeah.
I think it helps us take, people off of a pedestal, especially if it's someone we admire.
Yeah.
And I know that's something that I feel like once people get to a certain size, they kind of deal with of like yes, their audience like adores them and they want to learn from them, but they may not relate as much. And it's just like
Mhm.
I'm still human. I still go through these things, and so that's why I think it is important to share that. And I feel like or maybe I guess that's how you think about it. It may or may not be easier as you get more established or things like that because you have
Mm.
those receipts. You like, hey, I know I can do the job because again, it goes back. I think when people feel nervous about being vulnerable or
Mhm.
about showing they don't want people to think like hey because of this like you're not going to be a good service provider you're not going to be able to do
Yeah.
like I think that's
Mhm.
kind of maybe some thoughts that come into people's heads so they don't want to show any weaknesses quote
Yeah.
unquote, because they're like, "Oh, that's gonna reflect, badly on me." But again, it really
Mhm.
honestly can help build more of that trust and that connection. And like you said, there are so many ways to approach things. And so when you hear that person that's like, oh, this is my third time, my third attempt, or this is when seeing like what they did and then seeing where like honestly, that's been my biggest motivation of like, I see all these people who have documented their journey and like
Mhm.
and people be able to rally behind them and be like, oh, I remember when you were, doing videos out of your car when you were XYZ and now you're
Mm.
here and like having people
Yeah.
really follow that journey
Yeah.
is so helpful to not
Mhm.
only like make people like have that real community who is rooting for you,
Mhm.
but also being able to really like just pinpoint of like where things were happening and how you got from place to place.
Yeah. It's also like a way to learn, right? Because it's hard to improve something if you're not aware of it. So, like, if you are documenting along the way, you get to be aware of it. Sure, other people get to be aware of it too, but you get to own that learning process.
Mhm.
I was never really good at, like, just even documenting in my own life. The only times I could relate to that is, like, I do like scrapbooking. So, like, after a big
Mhm.
trip, I like to, like, take the memorable parts and, like, create a story around it so that I can remember it and it's not, like, a complete blur when I look back to it. Um, but it's similar to what you said, like, I don't really remember to, like, just pick up the camera in the moment. Like, that was actually one muscle I had to develop even before getting on camera is remembering that the camera
Yeah.
exists, remembering to pick up the camera. That like, "Oh, if I'm gonna document or even just share a point that I can just pick up my phone and do it." It sounds so silly, but I was like, I literally just forgot that I could be recording
Mhm.
myself, that I could be sharing this part of my process as well. And the reason why I bring that up is because, like, when you and I talked, we talked about the analogy of like long legs and short legs, right? So if
Mhm.
being seen and being visible feels like a giant step, how do we not try to take that huge step from the get-go? Because like only people with really long legs can do that. So like
Mhm.
owning that, like, okay, this might be a moment where my legs are a little shorter. How do I like break down the steps to climb up to my destination. And also just recognizing there are things that we're already good at that we do quote unquote have the long legs for and to step up also. So I'm kind of curious, like maybe not even right now, even like in the beginning of your journey, like what was your set of long legs and what were a set of your short legs?
Mm. Um, Honestly, in the beginning, my long legs was really ironically, even as an introvert, was networking and like talking to people. I had been in the hospitality restaurant industry for many years, and so I was kind of forced to to talk to people. And I learned how to do so in a, I guess, like a work kind of a work slash job type environment, right? Because even now,
Mhm.
like social situations, if it has nothing to do with business, I still feel very awkward. But I
Mhm.
learned how to talk about work. I think about like Beyonce and Sasha Fierce, right? Like this is who
Mhm.
is on stage. So that's what it felt like. So when I got into business, like, oh, it's like that. It's like when I'm waitressing, it's like, okay, this is me talking about my business, talking about my service in this
Mhm.
particular way. So that was very helpful for me versus just like talking about myself or
Mm.
hobbies and stuff like that. That didn't come as naturally to me. I would say short legs has been initially it was showing up on camera because I was so used to being behind the scenes. I was the one creating the content, I was the one filming the content, all that good stuff, but I wasn't typically the one in front of the camera. And
Mhm.
so I, being me, I just like really threw myself in it. You talk about those practices. I knew like the only way I was going to get better at it and also not
Mm.
feel so uncomfortable was to do it. And
Mhm.
so like me being extra, I went and I started two series, one like an interview series and then one a teaching series. And that's what
Mhm.
helped me like get that strength and like take that short leg
Mhm.
or something that's like I'm not feeling very comfortable about and being able to turn into something that is now a long leg. I remember before I would prepare so long before I did a live, even if I was having a conversation with someone, it
Yeah.
would just be hours. And now I'm like, oh, I just feel like going live today, and I could just go on there
Mm.
and not feel so nervous about it. And but that took practice. That was not how I came out the gate. But with that
Mhm.
practice, that was able to be developed. Because for me, it's like I'm just talking into this screen, and it's interesting. People think about it different ways, but I'm like I'm just talking to this screen. The people, if I have comments, I don't even have to look at the comments if I don't want to. Like I feel like I have a
Yeah.
lot more control online versus when you're in person and like
Yeah.
people are there. So it takes a little bit of a different skill set. And I feel pretty good in that area, but still developing
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love the word practice. It's something I do in my coaching all the time. Like after I go through a session with a client, like we usually decide like what are like 1 to 2 at least actions that you want to take to get yourself closer to this version of yourself you want to be, right? If you say I want to be more courageous in front of the camera, I want to be cuz like the way we define being seen is pretty broad, right? Like we've been
Hmm.
talking about being on camera, we talk about being a speaker on stage, but I just imagine in everyday moments, like we're being seen, right? When we
Hmm.
speak up in a meeting, when we tell someone how we really feel about something, and we feel nervous about that, right? All those are different versions of being seen. And all those, if it's not your long legs or what feels natural to you already, most definitely requires some sort of practice to
Hmm.
get a little more comfortable with it. And for me, I feel like it's so important about the environment in which you practice too, and the
Yes.
expectations you have for yourself when you practice. So, for example, even like getting on camera, I think I tried to get on camera 2 years ago. And I just like would I mean, I didn't literally break out in hives. It metaphorically felt like I was breaking out in hives every time I do it. So I was just so anxious about it because, like you said, it was like, oh, will people judge me? Oh no, this is recorded. Like if I slip up in this or I said the wrong thing, it's like permanently on the web now. Or like I have a tendency to mash my words together. So I'm like, oh no, someone's gonna think I stutter. So there's all these like worries about how other people will see us and will perceive us. But I was trying to like do too many things at once, right? It's like I had to
Mm.
like actually realize step by step look at each of those questions. Like they come as like a storm of questions in your mind, but to slow down, I'm like, okay, if it's about slurring your words or like mixing up your words, like what about that makes us anxious, right? What
Mhm,
actually feel like a better way? What's another way to look at this as well? And to kind of like mini sessions of like debunking each of these thoughts. And then deciding like what do I want to practice around it. And one of the practices I used to do was I'm not going to edit any of my videos, that I'm going to
mhm,
actually allow myself to say the wrong word and then right then and there catch
mhm,
myself and explain it to people like, "Oh, actually,
mhm,
no, I caught myself. I meant this other thing instead." Or brain farting, like
mhm,
completely blanking out and be like, "You know what? Crystal actually lost my thought. Can you help me out over here instead?"
mhm.
So being able to choose that one thing to practice first, because yeah, when we say like being on camera, there's so much to it.
Yes.
Or like being seen, there's so much to it, even in a one-on-one conversation as well.
Mhm. I love, what you said about just addressing it in the moment because that's just such a good way to, like, go after to go, approach that because, again, if we were speaking in person, that's, what
Yeah,
you would yeah, you do.
no,
Again,
I'm
it's
gonna go
very
back and
and it's
edit.
yeah, and it's very and it's so and so it's interesting because it's like that is a natural interaction that you would have if you
Mm,
were doing it in person. But when and I do and those are real concerns, right? Of like we know how people can be online, people can
mhm. Yeah.
sometimes distort things, but at the same time, the people who, again, who is meant for, because if those people who are doing that, they were already looking for anything anyway. So you really
Yeah.
can't change too much of
Mhm.
their opinion about you. But the people who are looking and who resonate with you, they're going to be like, oh, like I kind of do that too. Again, these are these connection points. That's why I
Mm.
like when things aren't super like perfect, and sometimes it's things that we're thinking about and other people like they think it's cool or they think it's cute or like sometimes, like I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and like I know sometimes my accent may come, and some people may think that that's awesome. Like at this point, I don't think too much of it, but I remember in college, like I was very self
Mhm.
conscious of how I talk because I was around
Mhm.
people who didn't talk like me, and so it was very. But now I'm just like, well, I mean, this is how else am I supposed to be? Like I'm not trying to turn into this new person every
Yeah.
time I show up. That's very exhausting.
Yeah.
And again, as an introvert, I only have so much energy, so I don't.
Mhm.
I don't do that, and that's why personally I love doing these conversations. I love doing lives because it's like little editing, which is in itself like great, but also it
Save
gives me
ourselves a
that
work.
exactly. But like you said, it
Mm.
gives us the opportunity to just really be speak to what we're saying of being authentic and like, hey, I
Mm.
I mix up this word. Oop, this is what I meant. Giving people a peek inside your head because I do that too, where I'm like, I'm trying to.
Mm.
I like to talk fast, so then I'll try to say two words like at once, and I'm
Yes.
like, wait, let me slow it down. But I know there's other
Do you
people who
have a particular one where you mix up all the time?
I can't think of it top of mine, but it definitely. I don't think it's a particular one, but just the more excited I am, the more my brain just
Yeah,
rushes
like, it
rushes
goes
ahead
faster
to
than my mouth can go in that case.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
I'll just be like,
yeah.
"Wait, what did I just say?"
Mhm, mhm. One that happens to me a lot is biddle. I say a biddle when I mean to say a bit or a little, and I can't
I
decide
know
which
you
one.
that's what it is, you can't it's like
I,
2
like,
words.
mash the word together. Yeah, so I feel you in that, and, like, I love that like, you trace back to, like, actually, when I do these, like, hiccups or trip ups, right, it's actually a sign of my excitement, right? Like, going
Mhm,
back to what we talked about, like, being aware of what state you are in, right, and the presence of where you are at the moment and, like, letting that lead as opposed to trying to, like, shove it away and be something else.
mhm,
No,
exactly.
no. Um, you said something about distorting earlier, right? That like we just live in a world where, yes, part of what's scary about being out loud, being visible, and being on camera at all is that we worry someone's going to take it and then distort it. Um, and it just reminded me that, like, sometimes when we do a hard thing, it actually is most helpful when you have almost like a bigger purpose and mission and a bigger why behind it. So it's not just like, oh, I want to be on camera because like it's a thing I need to do for my business, right? Sure, that's a reason. That's being responsible about, being out there and telling people about your services. But also, like, I realized for me, a lot of what actually gets me to show up and to actually continue this practice is recognizing that I don't want my story to be hijacked. And if I don't,
Mhm.
actually saying less is not the solution to it, but I actually need to keep adding my voice to the mix. I need to keep clarifying until like my point becomes clearer and people know what I stand for. They know what I'm authentically about. So it's funny, like it's actually the opposite. Like the desire to get me out of speaking less is that desire to not be misrepresented. It's around authenticity. It's like, you know what? If someone else is going to distort this, I already have a counterpoint. I want to be there. I want to speak to it in
Mhm.
this case. So I'm
That's
kind of curious. Yeah. Do you have a bigger why that drives you?
yeah. So this is so I do this challenge called the post a video challenge, and it talks about these different mental blocks people have when it comes to showing up on video.
Mhm.
And the final day is all about overcoming perfectionism and overthinking. And
Mm.
this is really that bigger why, like that comes down to it because, like you said, like
Mm.
yes, people know they need to show up whether that's online or off, and they need to do these things. But like you
Yeah.
said, if they don't have that bigger purpose, it's like, well, do I really need to? Right? I can still they feel like they can
Yeah.
still stay hidden. And so
Yeah.
we go really deep into that because for me, and for a lot of people, it's really about the impact that I'm making. Like I work with again a lot of wellness entrepreneurs, holistic healers, and I want to spread that message that there are wellness and self care practices that are accessible to
Mm.
people, and
Mhm.
there is just a variety. I a couple years ago had my first sound healing experience, and like now I love
Mhm.
sound baths. I listen to them on YouTube, all those things, and that's something that is very accessible. Like you can listen to that for a couple minutes. It can be
Yeah.
free if you're using YouTube. And then you have the other extreme of like maybe you're doing a vacation, maybe you're doing something that is more costly, but whatever that is, there are different methods that are great for you. And
Mhm.
so for my why, it's really about amplifying these wellness pros because I'm not a practitioner myself, but I'm using my gifts and my skills when it comes to marketing, when it comes to amplifying, when it comes to even with like tech and style, all these different things that I have. And I'm like, how can I use my skills to still amplify this message, to still get
Mm.
this mission out there? And so that's my why is really like helping other people. I want to bring more joy, light and healing into the world. And so I
Mm.
do that by helping those who are providing those services and products. And so when I get nervous or I'm like, oh, do I want to do this? I'm thinking about those people who, aren't going to hear from me, who aren't going to get that message when they need it.
Uh-huh.
And so they're not going to do necessarily what they need to do. And so that's kind of the things that keep me going is that impact. And like you said, if we're not making our voices heard,
Yeah.
then there's someone else who's gonna be louder than us, and they may not, have the same intent as us. Because that's
Mhm.
honestly, there's a lot of these people who are not all, but there's a lot of people out here who are louder, who are, being more visible, and they don't have the same, mission of really trying to impact people.
Yeah.
They're going after mainly funds, which is nothing wrong with we're businesses. We need to generate revenue and money, but I like to work with people where it's more than that.
Mm. Yeah. I love that. It's just like knowing that the world needs more of this diversity and this voices to add into it. I mean, you're reminding me that like it's a big part of why I have these talks, right? I couldn't when I started off, like I couldn't really find spaces where rather than like a quick one, two, three step, like overly didactic, overly teachery kind of thing, which starts to make me feel like there's
Mhm.
a right or wrong way to do something.
Mm,
Can we openly like explore and humanize some of these bigger things that are like eating up our mental space all the time while we're trying to be professionals, while we're trying to be um, caregivers as well, and just like being a human throughout the day. So being able to add into that mix and create a sense of like broader belonging as well.
I have a question for you. So we talked about before you were talking about a little bit of your visibility journey and like how this
Mhm.
was the first year you added photos to your website.
Yes.
And you're like, no, no. But and
It
so
was
I'm
like that for a
curious.
while.
And so I'm curious, like, what help you reach that point of your visibility journey? Like, what made
Mm,
you like, okay, let me show up in this way because like you have been showing up in other ways, right? You've been doing these collaborations, you've been doing workshops, all these different things. But I'm curious, like, what was it about being seen in that way, and what helped you become
mm.
more visible in that way?
Yeah, Crystal, for those who don't know, for what Crystal's referring to is like I've been in business for 4 years, but on my own website, I actually did not have a photo of myself on it for a very long time. I had a lot of images that represent the feeling I want people to have when they enter coaching with me, but not really my own photo. And this was the first year I did that, and it was kind of a revelation of like, damn, I really was hiding this part of myself for a long time. Um, and I guess part of it is like you mentioned earlier that like being on camera is actually slightly more comfortable for you than sometimes like meeting in person because of the control. Like I realize I actually have the opposite comfort. Like I'm much more comfortable in one-on-one and in
Mm,
person in um I'm that girl who used to like cry at work meetings and like I'm like fine, I'm crying, I'm having my feelings right now and like this will be seen as opposed to like somehow being captured like in a still film. And I think part of my resistance around that is I didn't have the words for it then. I do much more now, is because I do find that most folks who struggle with authenticity and code switchers is because there's a part of us that knows that we are people of multitudes. We have so many sides to us that feels like quirks, that feels contradictory and doesn't fit. Like we talked
mm,
earlier about like how I do stand for gentleness and I stand for kindness as an approach to life, as an approach to visibility and everything. But I also am from Brooklyn and I box for 10 years. So like I have a side that like most people would be like, that's not gentle. How do you fit as one person? So
mm,
I think for like still images in particular, I was worried that I was forcing myself to show up as one dimension and that
mm.
people wouldn't really see all of me. It wasn't an accurate representation of me. So I think part of that like really made me resist putting photos of myself up. So it did a lot of, I did have a lot of conversations of just like, well, one, I do care about my brand. I do care about, I have a design side to me. So like the aesthetics
Mhm.
of it did need to like come together and I was still figuring that out. So like I can't capture something that's still fluid for me. And secondly, I think for me, it's just like understand that this is going to be one of many things that I'm putting out there, right? Like the stakes got a lot lower when I realized it wasn't going to be like the one and only picture of me on the internet forever and ever and ever. That like this is one picture, and if you scroll down, there's another picture. Hopefully, there's not too many pictures now on the website, but you all also get to experience me in these videos. People who come to my workshops get to experience me there and how I teach there as well. So just knowing that like there's gonna if someone wants to know me more fully, that there's different elements of me out there that they get to experience.
I love what you said about, it's not the only instance. And I think that's something that
Mhm.
like you said, this gets people caught up because if you aren't
Yeah.
putting things out a lot, then
Mhm.
it do feel like it has a lot of weight because that's all it is, right? But if you continue,
Mhm.
then you're going to evolve and it's going to be okay. And then people get to see, again, we talk about people get to see that evolution and they're like, okay, but
Mhm.
this is where she's at now because you're like you said, you're continue to clarify that
Yeah.
that narrative because we're gonna as people we're gonna grow, we're going
Yeah.
to experience new things, have different perspectives as we get more information. And so
Mhm.
that is why it's important to, like I said, continue to clarify, continue to let people know where we're at.
Yeah. And it's I love it because it's like and it's not only humanizing, it's not only a good reminder that like for ourselves as we grow to be able to look back and be like, oh snap, like that's where that's where it started. Like, look how far I've come and like build that evidence for ourselves that we can do hard shit. And like and we can do it in a way that feels authentic. We can do it in a way that doesn't like traumatize us and like feel easeful as well in the process because we're able to create that meaning for us. And like with each step we take, each version of being online and being seen, we get to also be a little clearer and a little more convicted about what we stand for.
Yeah. I love
Mhm.
to hear from the audience, like, what has been something that they've been struggling with lately when it comes to visibility and how they may have changed in the beginning of their journey, especially if they're more established business owners, and
Mhm.
how they can look like now. So
Definitely,
definitely
and
leave
leave
that in the
those
comments.
comments for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, Crystal, really enjoyed having the conversation with you today. I'm kind of curious, like for someone who's starting off on their visibility journey, do you have any tips or suggestions for them on where to even start?
Yeah. Really, it starts with figuring out what works best for you. One of the things, when it comes to like I talk about being visible online and off. So if you're
Mhm.
someone who feels more comfortable in person, then start there. Then that can
Mhm.
look like, and it doesn't have to look like you showing up on a stage or giving a workshop. It also looks like you just really being social, like hanging out where your industry peers and or your clients are hanging out, and just really talking to people and getting to know them, right?
Mhm.
And the more that you get to know people and get to hear about like what their challenges are, what are the things that they're not struggling with, what things that they're good at, what things that's getting them excited, the easier it's going to become for you to be able to show up because you know like what people want to potentially hear from you, because you're also practicing. Like I
Mhm.
love, like if I'm practicing a new like elevator pitch or like just like how I want to express myself, I will go in person and say it and see like, okay, are people getting excited, are their eyes glazing over, right? Like that is a way
Mhm.
to kind of help. And then if you decide that you want to go the online route, I tell people like being visible doesn't always, again, doesn't have to mean that you're putting a post, doesn't mean that you're doing a live like this or facilitating. It could be as simple as you adding to the conversation. And so, being social on social. And so, like going ahead, adding comments to people, not just liking something, but adding your thoughts to what people are
Mhm.
saying online, and having conversation not only with the person who posted, but also if you agree with something that someone else in the comments are saying. I have had like the best conversation. Like LinkedIn is like one of my favorite platforms right now. And I've been
Mhm.
having the best conversations with people I don't even know, just like in the comment sections. And then eventually
Mhm.
they may like DM me. They're like, "Oh, I really like what we were talking about. Let's continue this, right?" But
Mm.
that is a way. You're still being visible. People do it all the time. They see a comment, they're like, "Oh, okay," and then they get nosy. They're gonna, click on your, they're
Like,
gonna
who's
click on your
this?
name, yeah. And
Yeah.
so that is such a way, to me, that is a way that you can like really ease into being visible if you're not ready
Mm.
to make that big post, if you're not ready to put on an event. Literally just talking to people, being a human, having conversations with people really helps, whether you're doing that on social or you are going out and seeking those relationships in real life.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that you shone a light on, like, actually showing up in comments, putting out your thoughts, saying whether you agree or you have a different perspective, like, both counts. That actually is a form of being visible as opposed to just keeping those thoughts to ourselves. We're engaging people, we're challenging ourselves in that way, and we're making connections too, hopefully, along the way. Yeah, I love that. Like just to challenge ourselves to even think about what does it mean? It's not only a stage, it's not only on
Mhm.
camera, but like where else can I start this practice of being visible? Yeah.
Yeah, because when if
Mhm.
people recognizing, because even like, just showing up constantly to some type of series of event or like a community, like people are
Mhm.
going to start to notice you. And that is a
Mhm.
form of visibility. And then they start to get to know you of like, okay, what it is that you do, what do you stand for? And even that, like that's a good way to like, start to get those referrals, start to get people to just to recognize you and then being visible in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I have a follow-up question for you. Because I think those tips are really great in terms of like, okay, I'm new to this, I don't know where to start, right? And just some ideas we gave folks today. Um, I also noticed in myself and my clients that sometimes even after we start, we then stop, right? Because
Mm,
then something comes up. And I think the thing that tends to come up most is the perfectionist side, the desire to make it perfect, make it the best, make it the most representative. Do you have any suggestions around that?
yeah, I can definitely see that happening because again, once you start doing that, right, you start to build a reputation, and that goes back into I
The
don't want
stage
now.
we're higher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, like, before it's like, "Oh, no one knows who I am." Now it's like, "Oh, people know who I am,
Yeah.
and I want them to see me a certain way," but one of the things is, like, you can't force people to see you a certain way, like, even if you could put something out
Mm,
with the best intentions, like, I don't know
yeah.
if you've been,
Mhm.
following, like, Tabitha Brown, and she, like, did this video
Mm.
of, like,
Mm-mm.
around it was a lot like, she was basically saying, like, "Hey, if things aren't working out in your business right now, don't give up on your
Mhm.
dreams, but it might be time to get a 9 to 5. It might be time to
Mm.
supplement your income some way."
Mhm.
Very seemed very basic, but it made a lot of people, upset of
Uh-huh.
talking. So that came very much from the heart from her. That's something that she did. Like I don't know if
Mhm.
people who, if they don't know her story, like she started off in Uber. Like she was making a video while she was in between her Uber shifts, and that's
Mm.
how kind of a catalyst of like her
Yeah.
reputation. And so she's very like she's been going after these dreams for decades. But she made sure
Mm.
that she had something. And so she was just saying that if that is the case, if things aren't going how you
Mm.
how you want them to go, then it may be time to look at other methods to keep that dream alive, right? But with
Mm.
that, people took it all kinds of different ways, right? So even
Yeah.
sometimes if we have the best intentions, people aren't going
Yeah.
to
We can
take it
control the
how we
reaction.
can't control the reaction. So like just kind of keeping that in mind in general, like we have to understand, but who the message was for, that's who is going to
Mhm.
reach. And so really, again, still focus on that why, focus on the people that it is going to help, is going to benefit.
Yeah.
And then the other part too is like I tell people to really like look at the data because those videos, most time those things that you try to make super perfect, those typically don't even like perform the best. Like you put it out, you make it perfect, and then you're like, "That you put all that energy, all that
I
time,
know. I
and then
know
it's like
that feeling.
and then it's that video
This
that you put
post took
out."
hours. No one's looking at
Yeah.
it.
And in that video, you was like, "Oh, let me just post my thoughts real quick." You're like, "Dang, it's going viral." So, like, even just
Mhm.
looking at that, right? Looking at, like, what you've done and, like, okay, like, not that you shouldn't put effort and excellence into what you do, but, like, look at it. It's like, okay, that thing that you wanna be perfect, did you even get the results that you wanted? So, like,
Mhm.
if not, why are you continuing to try to be quote unquote perfect? And again, what's perfect to you isn't going to be perfect
Yeah.
to someone else.
Someone
So
else. Absolutely.
it's very subjective in a way
Yeah.
when you think about it.
Yeah, and I get it. I feel like all the perfectionists in the audience right now are, like, tensing up and like, "No!" I'm right there with you all. It does take a moment to learn and to give yourself that gentle space and time to, like, slowly collect evidence. Like, it is okay to show up as me. It is okay to show up a little differently, a little less polished, and like people will still see me and still accept the message that I'm here to
Mhm.
share as well. Not everyone, like Crystal says, but you
Yeah.
just need those people that you want to reach to receive it, and that's where the impact lies at the end of the day.
And just one more thing, like, and even if like you haven't reached that point or you don't have that data yourself, just really just analyze. Like people free analyze and look at and lean
Mm,
on others. Like look at other people that you follow that you enjoy. And if you see them, like, maybe a video that's not super pop, but it still resonated with you, think it's the same
mm,
thing. Like that resonated with you despite,
yeah,
maybe that typo, despite that slip up of the
mhm,
tongue. And so why wouldn't your audience feel the same about you?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. That reminder of like just step outside. Like if you would accept it, if you can resonate with this, that someone will for your stuff too. Yeah.
Mm,
I'm trying to think if I have any suggestions for folks on the perfection side or on the hesitant to start. I think just to
mhm,
reiterate some of the things we talked about today, like we talked about practice, we talked about permission, and I think specifically if you're having trouble starting, like do you allow yourself to see it as an experiment, allow yourself to be a student again, right? So that does help take some of the perfections out because you're meant trip up and mix up like a few times before you get to a version that feels really good. And you're still learning about what feels really good for you. And I do think that like when it comes to being visible, it has to feel good for you before it can feel good for someone else. Right. So if you feel like you're performing something you're saying, or you feel like you're trying to like soundbite something in particular, but you can't quite find the words on it, allow yourself that space to like go back behind the scenes and workshop it with like a coach, or workshop it with a copywriter, or workshop it with your creative team. And just give yourself that permission to like go forward and withdraw, go forward and withdraw, because I don't think any of us are expected to be on and visible all the time.
Mhm. No.
So just being responsive to like, okay, I'm ready to come out. Let me go in and let me reflect and let me see what about this message is so important to me. What about this do I believe, and get clear on that. And then afterwards, everything else feels like all the variations will line up afterwards.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me today, Crystal. I know we covered a lot of ground, and I hope everyone listening was able to find something that like got them excited and be like, "Oh yeah, I can try this," and to like give you a little bit of hope and a boost again energetically to go back out there and be seen, because I'm pretty sure everyone watching has something important to say and something important to share about
Mhm.
themselves that the world needs to hear. It does need to hear it. Yeah. So, Crystal, if someone wants to stay in touch with you or get to know you a bit better, what's a way that they can find you?
Yeah. I have a newsletter on Substack called Easeful Visibility. So that is a really good way to hear my thoughts. I do like audio voice notes slash post on there, as well as some things where I really share what's currently getting me excited and geeked when it comes to strategy, style, and series, which I believe are three key areas to help you show up with ease when it comes to your visibility. So that's one way that you all can connect with me. And then for those who are looking for some extra eyes when it comes to their videos, I currently have a free video visibility audit. The details for that should be in like the description. But it's a free 30-minute audit. You send me some videos and I can help you see like just gaps that maybe you're not witnessing yourself, to really help take your videos to the next level and get it the visibility your expertise deserves.
Mm. And you've helped me like audit some of my stuff too before. And like the thing I appreciate is like you also help me understand like what I am doing well and like what
Mm,
to double down on. So I imagine that's a really helpful part of the audit as well.
yeah,
Hmm.
for sure.
Yeah. And for those who want to stay in touch with me, you're here. You're on my LinkedIn page, you're on my YouTube page. So keep in touch. Stay tuned for the next conversation. I also have a newsletter. This is in addition to putting my face on my website, which is still hilarious to say. I also endeavor to stretch in starting a newsletter this year. So I share a lot of these like bite-sized tips on like how do we stay authentic, how do we stay grounded and real with the direction we're headed in life. And also, I share a lot of like these more behind the scenes elements of what happens in my coaching room. So if you're ever curious of like, what is authenticity coaching? How does that actually work? The newsletter is the best place to do that, because that way I can share a bit more in detail. While protecting my clients' confidentiality as well.
Mm,
So, if you're craving a few of that information, hop over to the newsletter. Other than that, I'll see you on my website at heybettychan.com, and hope to hear from you all soon. All right. Thanks for
yes.
joining me, Crystal.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.